I am recording.
I
Ba, ba,
am
ba.
recording. Ba, ba, ba. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 641st episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I'm your host, Steve. With me is Al.
And I caught a Dynamax Phalanx this week. So that's the update.
That's
from
the only
last week.
Dynamax news we're talking about. Hannah also here.
I am here. I have a feeling I'm going to get a D in Pokemon Sleep this week, if not an F. But I'm here.
Going on your permanent record. It's going to follow you to Pokemon Sleep EX.
No, I don't have premium. It'll disappear after a month or so.
Okay, we got a show for you guys today. We're actually going to start off with Pokemon Go because the Gmax stuff is here, so we're going to get that out of the way, and then we have some Scarlet and Violet news after the break. Unfortunately, no Pokemon Sleep. Well, look, we can always talk about Pokemon Sleep. That's not an issue, but when you're listening to this, the Halloween event should be starting and Mimikyu should be showing up. There's no shadow drop of adding Nike Fuel Band to Pokemon Sleep or anything like that. Unfortunately.
That's a very specific one. Presumably that ties into Apple Health, though, right?
Yeah, but it only works with, I would assume so, but it only works with the Apple Watch. It doesn't work with the other things that tie into Apple Health. They did, however, turn the default on so you can see what device everyone's using now. Unless somebody opts out.
Yeah.
I think it's opt out by default, right?
Not anymore.
It was. They
changed
switched
it
it.
yesterday. One of the few days I opened Sleep and noticed that and went, I'm not sure how I feel about changing a privacy default like that, but okay.
Yeah, I'm like I am almost always on the side of like let me opt into something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the privacy would be to be like, I see Hannah's using an iPad, but Al is using a Fitbit.
I would love if it specifically said what device you were on. not just watch or phone.
Like it would be like, oh, Hannah's been lying to me for years. She's told me she's never had an iPad. Yeah, it's a different privacy, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not the biggest thing. That's why I wasn't like raging on the internet about it. But
yes,
it's still a little bit like it's not a great principle. But anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of maybe not great, I don't know. That was my transition. Gigantamax Pokemon in Pokemon Go. That has arrived this weekend. I will. I'm just for those that maybe don't follow Go. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. But this is off Pokemon.com. Power up your Dynamax Pokemon for the epic Gigantamax debut of Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise. We've seen Mega Evolve, we've seen Primal, we've seen Dynamax. At long last, Gigantamax will appear starting October 26th. That was this weekend from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're saying that these are 6-star max raid battles. And they're saying they will require between 10 to 40 trainers. And they also say max particles you use to participate. You can use max particles to teach your Dynamax Pokemon max moves or to power up max moves. You can collect up to 800 particles per day, and you cannot acquire more than 1,000 particles, technically.
Yes, it can't get more than 800 unless you do, in which case you can get up to what 10,060, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or 1,060, sorry, not 10,060.
Yeah, there's like a weird overflow threshold you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I went out. I did Gigantamax battles. Al, what is your status on the Gigantamax weekend?
So I also did it. So I guess I was saying on the podcast I'm probably not going to do it, and then afterwards I realized I haven't tried to take my 5-year-old out to a Pokemon event for a long time. So maybe he'll be less annoying if I do it this time. So he was up for that, and we went out and we actually, not trying to say I don't have issues with this. I'm sure we can talk about them, but overall, I had a fun time. It was a fun event. We had like over 100 people in Edinburgh. So we got most people, caught most of them. I caught all three, which I'm happy. In fact, I think I did a second Charizard at the end and caught that as well. So that's what I did.
Hannah, did you go out?
I did not, but I stalked Discord. I stalked all the Discords. I stalked all the campfires nearby. I was trying to figure out exactly what everybody was feeling about all of this, so my head is packed full of opinions.
Oh, okay. I was with a group of people, and they were like, "I can't wait for you to talk about this on the podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, I heard Al had a good time," and I was like, "I don't know if Hannah's going out or not." But I am like, I don't give you guys homework. It's not like, Hannah, you need. How dare you not go out this weekend?
I wish I had been able to. So I soon I will be able to more easily travel places. I got a new mode of transportation recently, and soon I will be able to get to the campfire groups that are in my city. But at this point in time, that's still not quite an option yet.
Okay.
But soon.
I want to get this disclosure out of the way, just because I always feel like I need to get this disclosure. Niantic paid me money to run an ad for the announcement of Gigantamax Pokemon. That was on Instagram, and that was on TikTok, and I think they put money into it to make more people view it. I made them like 3 different ads. They didn't like 2 of them. I liked the other 2 way more, but they wanted a specific one. I also, just some behind the scenes, it was originally 55 seconds. It had a ton of information. I thought it was very cohesive to me. They did not want it to be 55 seconds. They wanted it to be under 30 seconds. So anyways, they paid me money to do an ad for an announcement of that. I, at that point, have never played the Gigantamax feature. I did not know if it was good or bad. That ad was done over a week ago. So, like, my opinions of this feature have no... like, they're not really... I'm not getting paid whether I'm saying on this show whether they're good or bad. It was specifically that 29-second ad that you saw. So that I want to get that disclosure out of the way, just so, because I'm probably going to be a little positive on this, and people are going to be like, "Well, Niantic paid you." No, they paid me to announce it. They did not pay me to say good things about it, and I'm very good at saying bad things about some of the things they do in this game.
You are both negative about everything, and you're a shill. That's just how it works.
Yeah. I actually put that on my resume. Al, you said you had 100 people in Edinburgh. Is that what the city is called?
Edinburgh. Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Campfire?
It was campfire, yeah. So I believe there are 2 community ambassadors in Scotland, a whole 2 of them. Basically one in each of the big
country,
cities.
Steve.
It's not a very big country.
Well, no. Basically, there's like, if you live in the Central Belt, you're probably like less than an hour's drive away from one of those 2 cities. But if you don't, good luck. There are more cities in Scotland, but tough. Yeah, no, there was a really good turnout, and it was kind of big enough that people split up into multiple groups to do it. Use campfire. It would have been nice if one was closer, but it's not. I'm not too far away from Edinburgh, so it's It was.
What was the commitment? What was the drive? You brought your son.
So I didn't actually drive because I'm not in America. We got the train in. That was part of the deal, right? Craig, my 5-year-old, he loves going on trains, so it's like, well, we can go on the train, we can get into Edinburgh, we'll go get a McDonald's, do the Pokemon thing, and then you can choose something to do. So he was.
This sounds very American, minus the train.
Well, no, because we walked when we were in the city.
Oh yeah, that's not American at all.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you had over 100 people.
Yeah. I didn't count exactly, but it was like there was a point where I think we filled 3, so 340, so over 120.
And
it kind of weighed around a little bit. Sometimes there were not quite enough for 3. Sometimes there were a little bit more, which was, I guess, the most annoying bit is when you had a little bit more. Because one thing I will say is this feature doesn't have the private groups like raids do. So you can't split people up into, oh, you guys,
you can,
30
you
of
just
you
have
in
to
there.
be patient. You just have to wait.
Yeah, have you ever tried to organize 120 people to wait?
Maybe. Possibly.
Hey, that's
not
up to
easy.
that's up to that community manager to community ambassador to.
It looked like herding cats, I will be
groups,
honest.
The overflow groups with fewer than 10 people in them just have no chance.
Yeah.
So what would you say the vibe was with your groups? Were there a lot of fails? Were people having a good time? What was the?
Yeah, I think the overall vibe was, I'm glad we're getting these done. Like, most of them were succeeding, right? The 40s succeeded, right? You didn't need a huge amount of, you only needed a few people who were like properly powered up, and then most people could cheer them on and get the Dynamax meter up for them, and that worked out quite well. I guess it was particularly frustrating when there was a group that didn't succeed, and it's one of those things, I guess, where they felt a little bit kind of grumpy coming out to an event and having this many people, and they couldn't actually do the battle and succeed.
They should play Scarlet and Violet. They should do some 7-star raids.
So wait, there were groups of 40 that weren't succeeding?
Not groups of 40, no.
Okay.
So there were smaller groups. So I think there was a group of, and I suspect this happened time and time again in other places, there was a group of about 27 that didn't succeed, which you would think probably should be able to succeed, but a lot of people did
depends
not
on how prepared you are.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people were not prepared at all. Like, I saw many people going in with Bulbasaurs and Gastlys and stuff like that. And we could easily finish it with them in the 40 raids, but when you were less than 30, there was no chance of doing it with people like that.
Gee, how so judgy.
If I'd been able to make it out to the raids, I would have been a person like that.
I will say, so we did Charizard first, and that was probably the hardest one that we did. Once everybody had caught a Charizard, the Venusaur was super easy. Like, we got the Venusaur done with like 40 or 50 Pokemon remaining, and then everybody caught a Venusaur, and the Blastoise took about the same sort of time. So having those 3 that all countered each other definitely helped. But obviously the first one was quite difficult, actually taking it down. There was one particularly exciting point, and this is definitely the positive of it, is there was one that had about 25 people in it or something, and they were getting very close. They were like in the red, but they had like 15 Pokemon remaining or something like that, and you just saw it going down and down in the number of Pokemon. By the end, there was literally 1 Pokemon remaining, and they did succeed, but it was like quite, I mean, I think that person felt great about themselves, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Last person standing, taking it down. And that was kind of like a really exciting moment, because we'd just done a 40 that succeeded, and then there was this 25. But yeah, obviously frustrating if they hadn't done it, but I think overall people were happy to do them, but definitely thought they were. Like, it feels like there's we'd gotten to the point where it's Dynamax, right? You've got the 1-stars, the 6 1-stars or 7 1-stars that we'd done, and there was 1 3-star, which maybe sometimes would need 2 people. You could do it on your own if you had good power.
There was technically counters. 2 3-stars. There was the Beldum and Phalanx.
Beldum, I forgot about Beldum.
Yeah,
that one was a lot easier than Phalanx, I thought, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, because Charmander could.
Yeah,
you could just bring 3 Charmeleons or Charizards or whatnot.
But it felt like the difficulty curve from solo and then maybe 2 people needed for the next ones, up to realistically you need 30 people to get this done, felt a little bit steep.
For these raids, you need more than twice as many people than in our hardest raids in the hardest raids we've ever seen before. Mm-hmm. I think that's a true statement. Even if you have fully built teams, I think that you need more than twice as many people for the hardest raids we've seen before, because I would argue that the hardest raids we've seen before could be taken down by 6 or fewer people. I think that for these you needed more than 12.
When you mean hard, I feel like that is just their HP is bigger, and that's like the only difference. So like when I think of like what is hard in a I'm going to call them traditional raids, like the anything before Dynamax and Gigantamax. In a traditional raid, it's just like Mega Latias and Mega Latios are harder because they just have more HP. It's not like they're doing anything different. It's not like they're like, if you're bringing proper counters, you're still resisting 2-3 moves before you get knocked out and you bring another Pokemon in. But it's not like your strategy is changing. It's just you're just sitting there longer.
I'm not really even counting that as, when I say hard, I'm just talking about how many people it takes to take this down. So yes, I suppose it means the HP, and I'm not, let me be clear, I am not going at this from this is a bad thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think it's nuanced, and I think there are some things that really need to be changed. But I think that it being this hard and taking this many people isn't a 100% bad thing. But we do need to kind of acknowledge that these raids take more than twice as many people than for any raids we've had before.
Yeah. For me, I did 15. I successfully did 15. I guess you could say I did like 17 raids total. I failed one.
That's so many max particles, Steve.
Yeah,
I know. I was having a fantastic time. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Yes, I wish I would have been able to go out today, but obviously we had to record the podcast. Yesterday was probably the most fun I've had in Pokemon Go in a long time. And I went to South Korea. I went to Jakarta. I went to all 3 Go Fest. But there was just something about yesterday that was just so fun to me. And so again, I think I said this like last week. I feel like I'm in the minority of being like, I love these raids, and seeing so many people online or just in general, also be frustrated or not like that. I did campfire, and I have the little campfire up here. The campfire ambassador said 212 people checked in to MOA, Mall America, and 80 people checked in Chicago Avenue. Actually don't know where that is. And everyone there, all 200 some people, all seem to be having a fantastic time. So it's always, I always take like the online opinions with a slight grain of salt, of like, everyone hates this feature, or they need to really rework this entire thing. And there are pros and cons of it, but 200, like, I don't think local thing, like, it's clearly not dead, right? Like 200 people showing up for an event is really impressive, and I'm not even in the biggest city in America. I'm assuming
but you're in a place where it's easy to play.
Yeah,
both of you went to a place where it's easy to play.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like selection bias, saying everybody at the event enjoyed their time because they had enough people to do it, right?
Yes.
Like,
no, I mean, look, I went to the Hoenn tour in Las Vegas, and the people that paid money to be there were not having a good time.
Yeah, but like I was saying, both of you went to a place that had a lot of people, and that meant that both of you were able to do it kind of regardless of how many people there were prepared. Anybody who was part of a smaller group, and I was looking around, none of my local Discords were even trying to do this. Everybody was saying, if you're trying to do this, just go over to the campfire. So that's actually a really cool sign of how big campfire is getting, because nobody was even trying to organize this in Discord.
I don't even consider checking Discord or Facebook or anything. Campfire has been so reliable.
Yeah.
And in the last year, I think, my city has gotten 3 community groups, the officially sponsored ones. And all of them had, I think, at least 40 people. But definitely not 100, definitely not 200. And the groups that had the easiest time were the ones that came prepared, as you would expect.
Yeah.
And I think my opinion on this is that it being a challenge is a really good thing. That having a new, big, hard, challenging thing to do in Pokemon Go is really good, potentially. But that the time gating is a huge issue. That keeping this to one weekend, keeping this to one... Hang on. Keeping this to one weekend where very few people were prepared. The whole Dynamax thing is still new enough, and not everybody has cared enough about it, that very few people were prepared for this. And that, along with the fact that in raids before, there's always been a suggested number of people for traditional raids. They would, and that number has always been inflated, has always been above what you actually need, especially for when trainers have stronger teams. The number that they gave for these raids, for the new Gigantamax raids, was a little more accurate.
Yeah.
And so people came into this unprepared. And when people come into this unprepared in smaller groups, so they are learning that you need a bigger group and you need to be prepared for these. And it takes too long to build a team, and it takes too many max particles to build a team in an hour or 2 hours or in a day. Then on Saturday, you go and you try to do the raids and you lose. And you go, oh, I can't spend money on this. I can't build a team by tomorrow, or I don't have time to do this tomorrow. I guess this is the only opportunity I had to do this then. I think that it would be really, really helpful if these were more of a month-long thing than a weekend event.
I disagree. I super disagree, because I think if you do a 2-day event, you're forcing a sense of urgency of like, I need to go out this weekend. And I think we've seen this very easily with Shadow Raids. Shadow Mewtwo,
and I think
the
it works
exception.
well for that size of group.
Yeah.
For this size of group and this level of preparation, I think that you need to coordinate and plan more. And I think that you need to have more time to be able to do that.
So the thing that happened in my raids is after everyone, 200 plus people, after everyone got one of each, instantly cut in half.
Yeah, that's because nobody has max particles, because you had to pay money to get more than 2 of these raids.
The max particles isn't the problem, though.
It's part of the problem.
It's not part of the problem, because like you go out on a Wednesday night to be like, oh, it's Landorus raid hour. You get one free raid on Wednesday night.
But when they do events, when they do weekend events like raid weekends, they give you 5 free passes.
Yep.
If you checked in, you got essentially 1 pass.
And then
if you were doing things really well and you got your max number the day before, you got a second one, and then you got a third one for the day. So you're talking about 3 rather than it's more than 5, because you get it's 5 additional ones. So compared to 6,
so
like that is a big difference there.
If you checked into an event and got the 800 particles from that, you could get all 3 of these for free.
Assuming you could catch them, because that's the other thing, is there were people not managing to catch them, doing excellent
and I think that's a problem.
Managing to catch them.
I think these should be a guaranteed catch.
I don't know why they're still not.
For this much effort, they should be a guaranteed catch.
Especially when Dynamax in the games, in this main series games, are guaranteed catches.
Right?
Okay, hold on. We have a million conversations.
Sorry, yes. Yeah. But okay, so back to the time, but I kind of agree with both of you. Here I am sitting in the middle, right? I think I understand why they want them to be the time limited, because as you say, it's like it forces people to do it in a specific time. It forces you to look for I didn't have to go, oh, which day am I going to do it? There was a specific day. That was it. I was never going to do today, so I was always going to do yesterday. But then obviously you do end up in that situation where if you're busy this weekend, tough. Like I was busy last weekend because I was away on a work trip. Therefore, I just didn't get to do the Yamask research day. It didn't matter.
I missed the MS too.
It didn't matter because I had plenty. I didn't need them, so I wasn't upset. But that feels on a lower down than this.
Yeah, and maybe if they were doing these on weekends only and just kept it being the same Gigantamax Pokemon for a full month on weekends only, that would kind of be a good middle ground there. But I think that having this first event where people go to it and lose and go, I don't have the amount of time I need to build a team for the amount of people I have in my area to win this, they're just out of luck.
Well, no, because everything in Pokemon Go comes back.
Yeah, but for this to be the way the feature is debuted is really disappointing for a lot of people.
So my biggest issue, this is going to tie back into the timing, because I think the timing is a point. I think my biggest issue with this weekend was debuting 3 different Pokemon, because you need. I was like, in my head, I was like, I need a Blastoise and an Inteleon for Charizard. I need a Rillaboom and a Venusaur for Blastoise, right? So I think I ended up spending 2 million Stardust this week in powering up Pokemon, and that's fine for me. And I will say I was underestimating the amount of resources that a player would need to power things up. I got all my Pokemon up to level 40, which is more Stardust. Before that, when I was doing Phalanx, most of my Pokemon were like level 25 or 30-ish. So I think what Niantic could have done better, which I'm not going to say like rework the whole thing because I can go on why I think the current format is really good. I think Gengar should have just been the first Gigantamax Pokemon.
If it had been this weekend and next weekend, I think
agree. I think because there were players that were trying to prepare and then ran out of resources because they're trying to prepare for 3 different raids. And I really think they should have prepared for just like one.
Yeah, it does sound like if you prepared for the Charizard and won with the Charizard, you could then take that Charizard in to get the Venusaur, and then you could take the Venusaur in to get the Blastoise.
You'd realistically, if you didn't have 40 people, you need to power up as well. But I think when you have 40 people, if you have 5 people who have a powered up Pokemon and everyone else has was it level 20? I think they come out of the raids at. Going into it, then that's enough to keep them alive for long enough that you do enough damage.
Yeah, because like level 20, you're at like 1500 CP.
Yeah,
or these, roughly, and then like So I think that would have maybe alleviated some issues. But I do think having just this weekend only is the raid weekend is you're pushing as many people possible to prevent the situation of only 14 people came out, because I think going back to Shadow Raids, everyone came out for Shadow Mewtwo. And I think Shadow Mewtwo was like month long, 3 weeks long. And then it felt like every weekend there was a ton of people for Shadow Mewtwo because it was only on weekends. And then Shadow Articuno came out. And that first weekend felt exactly like Shadow Mewtwo. Everyone was doing Shadow Articuno. And then every weekend after that, no one cared anymore. And that's not exclusive to Articuno, not to throw shade at Articuno. But like, you see this in other games, especially other MMOs, whether that's Destiny or World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, where people want to do it right away. Even Pokemon, even in Scarlet and Violet, people want to do it on the Thursday night. They want to do it when it debuts. And as you go longer and longer, those people already did it. Those hardcore players already did it, and they don't need to do it anymore. So like you're really separating your community out, where like the hardcore players showed up, and those are the players that can carry the casual people. And the casual people show up next weekend. There's no more hardcore people. They all did it. And now you have a bunch of casual people joining raids with Ghastlies and Sobbles and Charmeleons, and they're like, I can't do it. It's because your hardcore people already did it. So I do think there's a validity of like, maybe
some of the time gating makes sense.
Yeah, so like maybe we just do it once a month, so we can push as many people as possible in favor of helping the casual people.
Because
obviously Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise is going to come back.
I still think that for the amount of time it takes to prepare a team of these Pokemon, considering how new the feature is, I think that they should have had the same event going for 2 weekends in a row. I think that it was disappointing to a lot of people to go, oh, I lost. I don't have enough time to build a team for this, and now it's gone.
I think they could have done the same thing by having an intermediate step, right? Because if you had another Dynamax raid that realistically needed 10 people to do it, you would still have that same thing of people going, oh, I can't do this. This is not going to work. And then they have the more time to get ready for the Gigantamax ones. It's as I say, it's like most people could just get away with never meeting. And like, this was the first time I met up with people to do max raids because I didn't need to previously.
Yeah, I think part of like the difficulty is just people, I don't want to say like not accepting or not understanding. I think that's like way too harsh, but people not accepting that this is just a different system. This is just all new. Like, I think the reason I had so much fun in this weekend was because sitting there with people and being like, and seeing what they are doing on the top, like, because you can see what they do. You can see when they attack. You can see when they they defend. You see your party of 4, which felt very like there was a game called Mag, which was like a kind of like a SOCOM Call of Duty kind of game, but it was like what it was. I think it was like 100 players versus 100 players, but it would break it down into like you're in a group of 6, and then you have little groups of 6, and then in that group of 6 there was like a commander, and then it was interesting to see. It was kind of like that in Pokemon. In this, you have like your little group of 4. So you're the 4 of you are responsible for your fight. And because you're local, you could find those people standing next to you, and you don't necessarily need to find all 4. So like I ended up being in a raid with Kyle from GoCast, and who like we had like a Charmander and like a like a Score Bunny, and they like died instantly, right? But because because Kyle was there, Kyle was like, okay, I'll bring my Gigantamax Charizard and I'll attack. I'm like, perfect. I'm bringing my Metagross. I'm going to defend and I'm going to heal. And even though those 2 teammates completely got wiped out right away, we were able to keep our party alive the entire time, no problem.
Yeah.
And that is just not something that can happen in traditional raids. And I've said on the show for 8 years or 7 years, I guess, that when I do a traditional raid, I just go in with recommended, because I've never needed to power up a new Pokemon, right? Like I have 6 Kyogres at max level. I got 6 Groudons at max level.
You haven't had to for a long time.
For a long time.
This game's been
right?
out for a long time.
It's been out for 8 years. It's crazy. And I go into the raid and I don't even look at my screen. I have never dodged a single time in traditional raids. I have just hit the little button and moved on, right? There's really, even at this point, not a lot of reason to give your Pokemon even a second move in raids, because as long as you're hitting a super effective attack, you're fine. And so I think that mentality, and it's not a bad mentality because you've been doing it for 7+ years, is like, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go join a raid. I'm just going to hit attack. And to me, being able to coordinate, being able to play a healer, being able to play a defense person, being able to play an attacker, literally just like Scarlet and Violet. It's kind of funny why I like this. It's just so cool. And just thinking of a strategy and like switching out multiple switches out, like right before you're Gigantamaxing, you're like, or Dynamaxing, you're like, I'm going to switch to this because this is my actual healer here. Like, I absolutely love it.
And people just didn't realize. Not enough people realized that. Not enough people understand it yet. And I think that having it just be this one weekend and people not be able to realize it one weekend and then regroup the following weekend to retry the same raids. Because you want to succeed at something you failed. You don't want to have them go away and have to do a Gengar next weekend.
I think it's interesting because I sincerely thought Pokemon was going to drip feed this, or I should say Niantic.
I think they probably still will. It's just October.
Right. But what I'm saying is Dynamax made its debut on September 15th. So you've had...
I feel like Dynamax and Gigantamax so essentially go together, though. That Gigantamax is the real feature.
Yes.
So in my mind, Gigantamax is kind of like the gyms compared to the rest of the Pokestops and the normal catching of Pokemon throughout the rest of Pokemon GO. That Dynamax raids are kind of like the normal Pokemon catching equivalent. Takes a lot more time.
Yes.
Takes a lot more time to build a team because you can't just catch Pokemon over and over again because of the max particle thing. But yes, the Dynamax raids are kind of just the base catching Pokemon, build a team, and then the Gigantamax raids are the actual raids.
Yes.
Yeah.
As this part of the feature.
I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. I think
what I'm saying is I'm just shocked they did Gigantamax so quickly, because
I don't think people would take Okay. I say this with so much energy because I feel strongly this way. I don't think people would have taken Dynamax seriously enough without the Gigantamax raids, and I think that's why so many people have been failing this weekend. And I feel that way because I have not been taking Dynamax seriously because I think that it on its own is boring. I think that with the Gigantamax raids, there is something to work towards that is challenging and exciting. And now I want to do all the Dynamax. I almost woke up at 5 a.m. to go out and be ready for the 6 a.m. Dynamax raids.
Yeah.
But because I want to do the Gigantamax raids. But without that, I don't care. I think they need the Gigantamax there. I don't think it's a question of them not drip feeding it. I think it's a question of them releasing the rest of the feature.
But I think what I'm saying is what I saw some other people say is there wasn't enough time to prepare, which to me is like, well, you've had...
Clearly there was, because you did.
I did.
Nobody knew that it was going to be this hard, though. That's not true.
I didn't know either.
Most people didn't understand how hard this was going to be.
I didn't either. But like, I've done 55 Dynamax raids since the debut, and then I did 15 Gigantamax raids. So I have a lot of Dynamax Pokemon, and I even said a week ago or 2 weeks ago that like I'll go out and I'll do like 4 raids, and it's great because I don't have to spend any money. Whereas like the old traditional system, if I wanted to do 4 1-star or 3-star raids, that would be $3 because the first one would be free, and then I'd have to pay $1 for that. But I can do 4 raids in a day for free, pretty easy, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I did. I powered up an Inteleon, I powered up a Rillaboom, I powered up 2 Charizards, 1 Venusaur, a Blastoise, a Phalanx. So I was pretty ready to go. And I think that like I had time to prepare because when you get a really good Venusaur, for example, that's the one you're going to invest in, both in candy and Stardust and max particles. So like my Venusaur was max Vine Whip level 2 or whatever it's called. And it was defense 1, and then it was like max spirit 2, right? Because I was like, this is a 98% Venusaur. I don't need the 100%. This one's ready to go. I'm going to focus on a Squirtle, or I'm going to focus on a Charizard, so I'm going to power this one up. So like my Metagross also max defense 1, max spirit 2, max meteor smash, whatever, psychic Zen headbutt, whatever that one is, like level 2. So in between raids, I was leveling that up. And I think we saw a lot of people this week being like, oh, I've been able to do a Landorus with 20 people and I brought 6 Stantler, and that's fine. And so they went into this going like, I'll just bring my 6 Sobbles and there'll be 40 other people there and that'll be fine. And then they learned, oh, that doesn't work. Because again, this is a brand new system. And so I think part of me, I don't want to give Niantic too much credit, is like, we need to put this out quicker to literally teach people what to expect. Because even before this, there was no reason to max guard or max spirit ever. And my raid groups, or I shouldn't say my raid group, the 200 people there, once they saw in action max guard and max spirit, people were like adding it to their Pokemon. They were like, I'll just spend the particles, which like not
and
a great feature. And then
you have to buy the particles.
Right, you have to buy the particles. But like if they would have they had plenty of time to unlock it.
Yep, I'm not blaming. Know.
Yeah, they just didn't know. I'm not blaming them. I'm like,
nobody knew except for Niantic. And that's why I think that they should be repeating this same event next weekend. And I think that that's a major miss, and I'm really frustrated about it.
But you can get Gengar next weekend.
And honestly, Gigantamax Gengar is cooler. But still, like I said, if you fail at something, you want to be able to go back and succeed at it.
Yeah. I'm just again, I'm not trying to defend them, but I think like,
I don't think this is a bad feature. I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah. I just think they had to like show us how to do it because we were not getting that with Phalanx or Beldum. We just like, why would we ever hit max spirit? And literally, if you had somebody on your team that had max guard and max spirit, your team of 4 would just be fine. A really good situation. Okay,
for here. Phalanx? Or
no,
your team of 4 as in inside the never mind.
Yeah. So
for a second I thought you were saying you could complete
so we had a
people.
group of 20 for Blastoise, and every group of 4 died except one group of 4, and it was 3 Venusaurs and a Metagross. And
Mhm.
all the Metagross did was Max Guard, Max
Mhm.
Spirit, Max Spirit, Max Guard, Max Spirit, Max Spirit. And the 3 Venusaurs never died, and all they did was attack. That group of 4 took out 25% of Blastoise's HP by themselves. And they were never, and the one of my my partner who was in the raid, like they didn't power up anything. They were the casual player that was like, I'm just going to use the Venusaur I caught from the past raid. I'm not going to give it anything extra. And they were they survived just fine. The level 1500 CP Venusaur just never died. So as these raids go on, right? Like when Blastoise, Venusaur, Charizard come back, imagine players with level 3 Max Spirit, level 3 Max Guard, level 3 Max Cannonade, whatever Blastoise is called. Like I think the numbers that Niantic said, 10 to 40, is accurate. If we can beat it, if we can beat Blastoise with 20 people having only Max Guard at level 1 and Max Spirit at level 1, what does that look like when our Max Spirit's level 3 and our Max Guard is level 3?
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's like, it's both a blessing and a curse that this was like only this weekend, because I think
it hurt so many communities. I was seeing so many people just not be able to finish this and being really frustrated. And I think that it could have been redeemed if they had had the same event going on next weekend. I think that this was also really important to show people that this is how the feature works.
I think the other thing you have as well, though, is the same thing you're going to get in any situation where there are hard battles, is that some people just don't care, and they want the thing. But no, it's true. You see it in Scarlet and Violet all the time, where people will just join with anything, and they're just like, I just want the Pokemon. I don't care about the battle. I just want to get the thing. And that's just a difference of opinion. And if you don't like that, you're never going to like a hard battle. And that's fine. But that's just going to be an issue that people have. I will say, however, one thing I was thinking of, if they're going to do super hard battles that require a lot of effort, I'm actually really glad they chose Gigantamax for that, because it's not a Pokemon that you can't get a different way, right? If they released a Pokemon that was unique to these, which, okay,
well,
they will
do that with
they will.
Sure, let's I'll complain about that when it happens, but let's forget about the future. If they'd done this in these are Pokemon that you can only get this way, and that's I think I think I would have been well, that's different, because that's just the Gigantamax form. You can get
okay, good point.
I'm talking about Pokemon that you can only get in Gigantamax raids, which will probably only be one. I think that if that was the case, it would be a lot more. I actually am glad that they did it on something that's just a form, and it's just a temporary in-battle form. So if you don't care about that, you can just ignore it, and you're fine. And sure, there's going to be a bit of you deep inside going, I don't have a full collection, but that's okay.
Yeah, I want
to keep talking about this, but I need to pay the bills, so we got to take a break. And when we come back, we will talk about like the max particles and the stuff that we haven't touched on. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. Okay. So before the Gigantamax came, I was streaming on Twitch. I was doing my Pokemon Crystal thing. That's a whole other story. But somebody came in and they were like, did you see that people are failing with 40 people? These seem impossible. And then they gave me a little link to like it wasn't even the Sulphur Road. It was the r/Pokemon GO subreddit. It's like, oh gosh, not this subreddit. And I read through it, and the funniest part was like the person who posted it was like, yeah, I failed. And then in their screenshot, they had like, they were using like a Ghastly against Charizard or something. It's like, brother, this is why you fail. Why are you bringing a Ghastly here? At least evolve it. Like, there's no way you don't there's no way you just don't have enough candy to evolve to Gengar. There's just not. This Pokemon's been in the game for 8 years, and it's featured all this past week.
Yeah.
Just no way. But what Al was saying right before we got to the break, which was some people just don't care, or they're just stuck in that traditional mindset of like, I'll just bring whatever, everyone else will carry me, that's fine. And the funniest thing that I think is when you have 40 people, each person has 3 Pokemon, so you see a number in the upper corner and it says 120. And when you are going against like Venusaur and you see like Venusaur is preparing for an attack, Venusaur used Solar Beam, and you see the 120 drop to like 80 Pokemon like instantly, and you're like, well, that was every single Squirtle that somebody brought to this raid is just obliterated instantly.
Oh gosh.
But I think there is definitely like there's definitely probably some balance of resources being needed because you are ultimately starting over. And I have no problem with starting over because it gives me new things to work towards. It gives me a reason to go out to do raids. I talked about how when you do a Dynamax raid, I think I even like posted this on like Blue Sky or whatever, of like 6 of my Sobbles were sitting in raid dens because I did 6 Ghastly raids and then I left 6 Sobbles, and then I was getting free Sobble candy, which I think is a fantastic feature. And it cost me no money because I was doing those raids for free and I was leaving the Sobbles.
A great feature. Again, terrible for remote people because if nobody ever goes to that den, you will get no candy for it.
Yeah. So obviously if you're in Tokyo or you're in New York or you're in LA, you're going to get more candy versus, just doing a raid in the middle of nowhere and then no one else also going back to do that raid. Yeah, totally. It is expensive to power up a Pokemon, but evolving a Pokemon is still relatively cheap. So like seeing these Charmeleons or these Squirtles or these Bulbasaurs and being like, okay, no one understood how hard these were going to be, but like, also did you, but we kind of did, because like 3 Bulbasaurs really didn't work against Phalanx and 3 Charmanders didn't really work against Beldum.
But not everybody has invested very much into these raids, so maybe they have the Charmanders, but they've never even tried a Phalanx, and they just didn't
that's true.
know.
So again, I think it's like a blessing and a curse that these raids showed people kind of what they can work towards. And to be fair, I don't think people will have enough time for Gengar if they didn't have enough time for this. But maybe the people who, because Gengar is this up, because you have a week.
It is soon. You have a full week though.
Yeah. So I mean, like my takeaway, I don't know what your takeaway, Al, is like I was doing raids. Well, it sounds like you did one of each, but I was doing raids to get like a decent Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, and then my plan this week is to level those up. Like I'm going to get max guard on all of them. I'm going to get max spirit on all of them. I'm going to try to get to level 2 on all of them, and then put candy into them. And now I'm going to have really solid fire water counters for every single future raid.
Yeah, I think one problem, I guess, is when you're powering up one of your Pokemon, and if you're not constantly catching absolutely everything, and always using a Mega and always throwing on that star piece to get
Always using Pin-Up.
Always using Pin-Up, yeah, exactly. If you're not doing all of those things, you do run out of these resources very quickly. One of the things I've always disliked about Pokemon Go, as much as I love this game and I play it for literally hours every single day, I don't like how there are currencies. First of all, there seems to be so many currencies, but also every currency is used for so many different things. So like Stardust is used for powering up, but also for trades. And then it's candies used for evolving, but also powering up, and also adding now the Dynamax moves. And the XL candy in particular for level 3 is a lot of XL candy to power up even one of the moves to level 3. And you can argue you don't need level 3, sure, fine. But if you're wanting to try and do it with as few people as possible, you realistically need to, right? So I think it's probably one of those things where the hardcore people will continue going even more hardcore. The less hardcore people will just completely drop off it. And then the people like me in the middle will be going, I just don't have enough resources to do everything I want to do. And that's frustrating. But I'm going to keep doing as much as I can to try and get everything. I doubt I'll have the time to do Gengar this week. I know I said this last week about the others, but I literally don't think I'll have time this week, right? Because I can't do it after work because I need to get the kids to bed. And then by the time I got the kids to bed, it's 7 o'clock. There's only 2 hours until you can't do the battles anymore. So it would take me at least half an hour, if not longer, to get into Edinburgh. There's not enough time. And then on Saturday, it's my kid's birthday party. So it's just this week's not going to work. So I think for people who have the time and have the currencies in the game, I can see why it's great. But I think it's going to continue to be just as frustrating for the less hardcore people. But I guess we'll see.
I mean, I think with like Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, at least because those Pokemon have been in the game, because those Pokemon have had multiple community days, right? I think Bulbasaur is the only one that hasn't had two. Squirtle has had.
I am near certain Bulbasaur has had two.
I think it has had two.
Yeah, I think all the Kanto starters have had two. Ghastly said had a community day.
I get that, but somehow I have no candy left for any of them, and I don't know what I did. I don't know how. Like, I've been playing this game for 8 years. I don't know. Just it disappears.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it doesn't disappear.
There's like, I had 3 million Stardust going into New York Go Fest, and I left New York Go Fest with 3 million Stardust. Mm-hmm. But I spent 2 million Stardust during that time running Palkia nonstop. I ran Palkia every second I was playing. And that's 5,000 Stardust every 10 minutes. But I was earning Stardust back by running Star Piece and then catching Pokemon. So it was like this cycle. And I really wanted, like I spent 2 million Stardust this week to power up Rillaboom, Charizard, Venusaur, Inteleon, Blastoise. And there's part of me that's like, now I only have 1.5 million Stardust. That like I burned through 2 million. But now I have solid counters for Dynamax and Gigantamax, and that just started. And there's a lot of Gigantamax and Dynamax Pokemon. And so I don't completely feel like that was a waste, because the only thing I was really using Stardust on was like I traded a kid a Charcadet in Korea. I didn't understand anything he said because he was speaking Korean, but we came to the conclusion that this little kid just wanted Charcadet. I was like, I got you, man. And I don't, how expensive was that trade? It was like 200,000 or something, because he traded me something that I didn't have either. It was like a Seismitoad or something, because I just never evolved a Tympole into a Seismitoad. It was just whatever. Like I can think of so many 500,000 trades I did in other countries just because that person didn't have that shiny Pokemon, and I was like, I don't care. What am I going to use this Stardust for? Which is true. What was I going to use that Stardust for? Nothing. Here's a shiny Latios. You need one? I don't need one. I got like 7 of them. And now it's like, to me, it's like I have a reason to use Stardust because I didn't have to use it to power up something to take out a 5-star Landorus.
Some people still like to use Some people like to power up their Pokemon just in general. Some people like to do the PvP. A lot of people run on low Stardust.
Yeah.
I think that the currency I have more of an issue with is the max particles. Because not only were people running out in order to just do a single one of each of these Gigantamax raids this weekend, but also if you came in and your team wasn't fully ready and you had to use the max particles to power up the moves and get all of your team set on that side of things and get your Dynamax Pokemon set to have a team that you could use for these Gigantamax raids, you have to use max particles for that as well. So if you came in and you realize, oh, I'm not ready, I need to power up my Pokemon, I need my Pokemon to be stronger, but I'm using the exact same currency to power up my Pokemon that I need to literally join these raids. I think that's a problem. I understand there are a lot of currencies. I think maybe we need one more.
I think evolving your Sobble to an Inteleon is easier than giving Inteleon max guard.
Yes.
And so that would be like the first step I would tell all these people is like, no, you don't have to spend max particles. Max Spirit is not going to be helpful on your Charmander. It will be helpful on your Charizard, but you need to get to the Charizard first.
But it's like, still a problem.
Yes. I think hopefully all the people who brought Sobbles and Gastlys and Charmanders, hopefully they know that going into Gengar or whatever else is coming that they should evolve.
Yeah.
And now that they caught a Gigantamax Blastoise, Venusaur, Charizard, because as far as I know, no one in our group of 200 failed multiple times, right? There was like an instance where our group failed once, and we were luckily enough, everyone was positive and been like, we were so close, we can do it again. Everyone just make minor adjustments because like I think it was against like Blastoise or something. We just didn't know it had Ice Beam. So like people who brought a lot of grass, they were like, oh, I'll just put like one Metagross or at least something that resisted it in. And that really helped out. And we were able to do it the second time just with plenty of time left the second time. It was just a minor adjustment, which is great because that's what you see in 7-star raids is like, oh, we almost had Sceptile. Let me just make one adjustment here. And okay, cool, we got it. That's great. But now, ideally, hopefully, people can spend this week instead of spinning stops or instead of catching more Gastlys. Maybe they want to catch Gastlys. I don't know. But they can use their 800 particles to then level up the move instead of doing Ghastly raids.
Yeah, but it takes, again, the issue of it takes more preparation than people can do on the very first weekend, and people were not prepared because of that.
I think if we go back to the point of like raid weekends give you more raid passes, I feel like if they'd done that, it would have like if they'd gone right, the cap is 3,000 today. I feel like that could have gone a long way to helping because then you would have had enough to do the 3 and also power up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I've been thinking of that would massively have helped this is if the starters that are in Dynamax raids were also spawning in the wild, so you could actually get more candy that way. Like, because I do think that is a problem for some people. Is the lack of candy. And yeah, sure, you get candy when you do the Dynamax raids, and yes, you can get up to 5 candy if you put a Pokemon in the Dynamax in the raid spot afterwards. But I think just even just having them spawning in the wild, you can rack up that candy really quickly.
You are on a fine line, Al, here, asking for Kanto Pokemon to spawn in the wild in this video game.
Well, we have the Ghastly Dynamax raids, and we have the Ghastly for the Halloween, so some of that was present. But
yes,
yeah,
I totally understand 1,000,000%. I understand like using MP to do raids and using MP to power up. And how, like, on a day where you want to do both, that's incredibly hard unless you want to spend money. And this was the first time since the system came out, I spent money, right? But in my head, I wasn't spending money to get a rare resource. I was spending money as I would a raid pass. Because, and this is why I like the system so much, is a current traditional raid pass is $1. And
that goes both ways, though.
And and a remote raid pass is $2. So it's like, would I spend $2 to do a Landorus? Yes, because it's a legendary Pokemon. It has a higher chance of being shiny. I'm going to get Stardust. I'm going to get experience. I'm going to get rare candy. That's worth it to $2. Am I going to spend $2 to do a Wooloo? No. Why would Wooloo be the same cost as a Landorus? I'm going to get significantly less Stardust, significantly less XP. Wooloo, it does not have a 1 in 20 shiny chance. Also, I can just go for a walk and I can catch 10 Wooloo outside. Like the traditional raid cost of entry has always been unbalanced and didn't make sense. So the fact that 800 MP is ultimately $1, and 250 MP, which is the cost of a Squirtle, Ghastly, whatever, is 30 cents or something. Like, it's just fundamentally a better system.
I don't.
Especially
with
I
the
don't.
cap on your MP, 800 is still a lot. It's a big chunk of that, and you can't save it.
I think that's the thing. It's to me. I agree with you 100%, Steve, that is better than the raid passes. Absolutely, it is definitely better. It makes more sense. The problem I have is the fact that then, as Hannah said, that is the same thing you need to improve the Pokemon in some ways. And
yes, but there are some people, myself included, who don't use our free daily raid pass. Like, I maybe use my free daily raid pass like twice a week, so that's 5 days of the week I'm not using my free dollar raid pass. And I couldn't use my free daily raid pass on a Landorus if I wanted to. It's like, oh, there's a Landorus. I don't know. I'm using Landorus as an example. Oh, there's a Landorus down the street. Let me go use my free raid pass. I can't do that. I mean, I guess I could sucker people into spending $2 so I can get Landorus for free. That's a possibility. But like, the days I'm not using my MP to do Ghastly or Phalanx or whatever, I can then at least use it. So I do think there's like once I power up my Gigantamax Blastoise, like, I'm done now. I'm done. I can go back to doing raids, or I can focus on something else. And I think this is the frustrating part, but also exciting part of the system is, like, as this system goes on, in like a year, people are going to be like, oh, did Gigantamax Blastoise with 10 people, because we've had so much time to prepare, so much time to.
I think the other thing that is annoying to me is that I think if it was just max particles you were using to increase the Dynamax levels as well, would probably feel better. It's the fact that if you want to get a move to level 3, you have to use max particles, candy, XL candy, and Stardust, I think.
No Stardust.
No Stardust.
No Stardust. Stardust is only to, yeah.
So it's just the 3 things. But yeah, so you're having to decide, do I want to power up this Pokemon, or do I want to give it a Dynamax move or improve the Dynamax move? And you need both of them for your counter to be any good. If it was one or the other, it would feel less like you're trying to... And it's like, which one is actually worth more? And especially for this weekend, it was like we were all trying to figure that out in real time. And if you had prepared, but you'd prepared the wrong way, you've now used up all your candy and you're useless.
Yeah, so you would need it would take 3 days to do what? It would take 8 days to do everything. If we're just going off the free MP model.
For one Pokemon.
For one Pokemon. And then XL cost, I'm just looking at Venusaur.
It's 120 because it's 40
120
per move,
XL.
That's a lot of XL candy.
It is a lot of XL candy, and
XL candy is still really hard to get.
And I think even going to level 2, which is no XL candy at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think level 2 is just so good in general, especially like Max Spirit or Max Guard. I don't know how Max Guard actually works. So like, when you use it, a little shield goes up next to your name, and it does only Max Guard you, where Max Spirit heals your 3 teammates. And what's super cool about these raids, and why I love them compared to traditional raids, is I can see how much health my teammates have. And so I know whether I need to Max Spirit or not. I can also see if they Max Guard or they Max Spirit. I can see that too. I can see when they're attacking. But I'm not 100% if somebody's watching on YouTube or in Slack or in Discord, if they want to leave a comment. It seems like when you Max Guard, you are forcing the raid boss to attack you.
Yes, I read that this morning. Yes.
Okay, because when the in that situation where I was like, my partner was Venusaur, just caught it, didn't power anything up, was the most unprepared possible for this raid weekend. They were like, they literally had like a Venusaur, a Dubwool, and a Phalanx. Those were the only 3 Pokemon they
Hey,
had.
they were evolved.
Yeah, that's more
true.
prepared than I would have been. I have a Dubwool and I have a Wooloo.
The Dubwool was evolved. That's true. But that's what they had. They didn't power up any moves. They didn't power them up anymore. Those were the 3 Pokemon they had for the entire weekend. And I was watching them because I got knocked out. I was watching them and I was like, this is literally the Venusaur you caught 10 minutes ago. And you're not taking any damage. When you are taking damage, you're getting healed in between. It was just because one Metagross player they had Max Spirit level 2. And they were max guarding, max spiriting them back to full health. And it was like you can just see in real time how cool this system is. But of course, like, that was the first time we were able to see it because, like, no, we didn't see that during Phalanx.
Yep. Yeah.
You weren't getting 4 people together for Phalanx, no?
Even though, and I think this is where calling both the Dynamax raid battles and the Gigantamax ones raid battles, calling them the same thing makes them seem more similar than they are. I really think they're more separate.
Interesting.
Yeah. So even if they repeated the Kanto stuff this weekend, which I'm sure people could not play this weekend, I totally get it. I just don't think a week is enough time to prepare. But like, I think now that some people have caught the Gigantamax, they can at least start that journey of powering up their because like for me, there's no reason for me to do Ghastly this week. I did probably 10 Ghastly in total. I got one that's like a 96%. That'll be my Gengar. I'll catch a Gigantamax Gengar this weekend. I don't need to do any more Venusaurs. I don't need to do any more Charmanders. Like, I need to do them, I guess, if I wanted more candy for them. But like, it feels like the system is now designed where you can chase a Pokemon ultimately for free. Like, let's just say Drillbur's coming out, right? Like, when Drillbur comes out, Drillbur will be good against Toxtricity. So I'm going to do a bunch of Drillbur. Once I find a good one, I can stop doing Drillbur completely, and now I can use that MP to power up that Drillbur, catch the Toxtricity, don't need to do any more raids, use that Toxtricity to power up that Toxtricity. This is... You could argue like, well, what is this ultimately for? It's like, I don't know. Why have you been playing this game for 8 years? What, like, it's just a giant loop over.
It is. And it's for the reason at this point in time is just to catch the Gigantamax Pokemon. That's the ultimate goal. I do think that possibly we could use better rewards in the Gigantamax raids in particular.
The rewards from the Gigantamax raids are crazy good.
Okay.
They're so good. You
Are
get like
you sure? I am looking at Al's face here.
You get they're so
sure
good. You get like 2. Okay, if you had a lucky egg going, you get 100,000 XP for completing that raid. 100,000 XP.
It was 25,000 base. So if you had a lucky egg, it would be 50,000.
Oh yeah, you're right.
The XP is good. I think the XP is
still
good.
A good amount. Yeah.
And the candy was good because you got like 30 candy or something. But everything else felt a little bit drab. It's like you'd get 1 XL candy, and then you'd get like 8 balls to use, and maybe you'd get a golden Raz or something. Like, there's a level of it that's like, it feels like it's almost kind of good. Like, I'm not going to click that button that says buy. Right?
I did twice. I needed to know. That's where I got
accident?
the 100,000.
Was there a confirm?
No.
Oh,
there's a confirm. There's a confirm.
Okay.
You go through. It tells you everything. So it actually it doubles your XP. So I would never hit that button if you were not running Lucky Egg, because it's doubling your doubling. So it's going from 25 to 50, and then when you hit the button, it's going from 50 to 100, which is just insane. It's doubling your Pokeballs. So I was getting 10 Pokeballs every raid. It doubles it to 20.
But you have to decide. The fun thing about that is you have to decide before you start catching whether you want the extra balls or not.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit like maybe you could have given an option to decide after you use your last ball.
I still think that these should be guaranteed catches. That's my other thing. I think that maybe the rewards could be a little bit better. That's dependent on how easy these become over time. I think that maybe they're okay with where they're at based on how, as people get better, they will get to be a little bit more mundane. But I really think these should be guaranteed catch. All of them, not just the shinies.
Yeah, I mean, like they're all maybe because they're so
Considering-
big, they're really
Yeah.
easy to get excellence on.
Yeah,
But
that's
considering how
all
much
very
you're
well and good.
spending,
I knew multiple people who hit excellent throws every time and still didn't manage to catch them. And that just feels not great when you put in all the effort and like 38 people managed to catch it. So if you have like if you're going on to the next raid and people are one and done, you don't have your team anymore. Like that just feels not great.
especially considering how it is in the main series games.
Hmm.
We can just carry that over.
Although
Oh,
I
that
did just
that-
remember, I actually don't think it's not in Sword and
It's
Shield.
not? Okay.
It Terror Raid battles are guaranteed catches,
Yeah.
but I don't think
Okay.
I don't think
yeah,
Sword
the
and Shield
lore,
were.
the lore.
Yeah,
Fair.
I just before someone commented on YouTube because I did say that earlier as well, but I think I was wrong on that.
Fair, but still, I think these should be.
I think was it the Dynamax Adventures were guaranteed catches? They were guaranteed
Dynamax
catches.
Adventures were guaranteed catches.
But just Dynamax and Gigantamax raids were not guaranteed catches.
So
Sorry.
25,000 XP. Al is
Yeah.
right.
That
and
explains it if you were buying the 200
and then
coins.
they're saying consumable items like Golden Raz and XL Candy. I wish this was more detailed. I thought I took a screenshot of the rewards because I wanted to talk about how I spent the 200 coins twice. So $4 to like test this. But yes, it does ask if you want to confirm. I don't think it's worth it if you're not running a lucky egg. I don't know if completing these raids give you Stardust, because there was no Stardust on the screen, and I was running a star piece that weekend.
I think you might get Stardust just for the catch itself, because the catch is just treated like
Yeah.
a normal catch
That would
in
make
terms
sense.
of rewards.
It should give you Stardust though. Like I
Yeah.
feel like you should get a bunch of Stardust for doing this.
Hmm.
But I didn't think they were. I'm trying to look if somebody has a list of rewards. Yeah, I don't know. I if you're not willing to spend the 80 cents on the lucky egg, I don't know why you would spend $2 to double it. Like
No.
that would be the only reason I would double it, is if you want the XP, and it doubles your XL candy, so you go from 1 XL candy to 2 XL, but maybe it should be a little bit higher. I take it back. I don't think the rewards are that good.
That's the one that felt particularly bad. It was 1 XL candy, and you're like, that feels not great.
I changed my mind. The rewards are bad.
I'm not asking for 40 XL candy, but like 5. You know, like it just,
Or even 3. I don't know, more than 1.
yeah.
You were getting like 30 to 40 candy of that
Yeah.
Pokemon. So when you doubled it, it was almost 100.
I think they changed the rewards after, because I remember I'm seeing this screenshot again that I saw on the Self Road from Australia, and they had 1 rare candy, 1 max revive, 2 golden raz, and then the 10 balls and the 25x.
I don't ever remember getting
else. That was not as good as what we were getting later on. I think they changed it.
I don't ever remember getting golden razes from completing it. I'm
I
not
didn't
saying
take
I
any
didn't. I
screenshots
just
either,
don't.
annoyingly. It's too long ago. It won't show in the journal now, will it?
Oh yeah. Oh, I did take a screenshot. It was 50,000 XP. I was running Lucky Egg. 1 rare candy, 1 max revive, 30 Bulbasaur candy, 1 Bulbasaur XL candy, 10 Premier Balls. So doubling it for $2, you're 2 rare candy XL, 2 Bulbasaur candy XL, 30 or 60 Bulbasaur candy, 2 max revives, 20 Premier Balls, and then 100,000 XP for an extra $2.
Yeah. I think it needs more XL candy. Rare candy.
Yeah, because like $2 doubles all that, but also doing another raid just gives you all of it. Just doing another raid.
Well, but again, that costs more MP. So
but 800 MP is only like $1. So the only thing you're getting is double the Pokeballs for $1.
Yeah.
Well, MP is like a They do it in a way where you can never remember how much you're actually spending.
Yeah, it's 150 coins for 800 MP, or if you buy it in a 3-pack, currently it's 5% off, which is, by the way, the most offensive discount ever. 5% off. So that makes it, instead of 150, that would make it 143. So it is definitely cheaper to do another one, but the problem is, if you're not somewhere where there's enough people to do another one, like after I left, when I'd done the 4 raids, I think they were basically down to one group at that point. Pretty soon after that, they wouldn't have been able to finish those raids in.
Yeah. The only reason we stopped doing raids was because the groups were just thinning out. Like, so many people left after they caught one Charizard, one Venusaur, one Blastoise, and then they were like, okay, I'm good. That's all I wanted. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But like,
because it costs money, and they didn't provide any way for people to have more MP like they would on a raid day. I think if they want people to stick around, they need to do the equivalent of giving people free raid passes. More so than just the 800 for checking in.
Yeah.
Which was only for community ambassadors anyway. I don't think it was for any meetup. So if you had a meetup that wasn't community ambassador, you didn't get that.
Yep. Did either of you run into anybody getting banned in that weird?
That happened after that was like after I'd gone to bed that started, so it wasn't our time.
Okay.
I only
it seems like a lot of it's been reversed at this point, but there was some weird.
Some of
I thought it would have something to do with it being a specific phone.
They've got one day ban rather than a 7-day ban, which is an interesting change to that.
I don't know if any solid conclusions have come from it, but just more Niantic being Niantic, and something went wrong, and a ton of players were banned for seemingly no reason, I think, is at least my current understanding.
It's hard to know, because Steve will probably bring up his point about the people on stream that would say they had never time traveled in Animal Crossing, but the thing they'd done wouldn't be possible without time traveling, right? People lie.
It's true, very true. People do just lie. 100%. That 1,000,000% of people that are like, there's a handful of people that were like, I've never cheated before, but like their account somehow ended up in Taiwan all of a sudden. That's because they paid somebody to like log in and do raids and then send it back. That's a real thing that happened. I don't know anything from the bans. I saw from what I saw, it was a lot of children getting banned, and it was because they were using a specific phone, which the phone had its own security on it. And I don't know, like you know how like some children phones are only like
a specifically locked down phone that's designed for children.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of like the Firefly phone, which only had like 4 buttons. It was like call mom, call dad, call emergency, or like call the school.
That was
or
such
something.
a long time ago at this point.
I don't think those phones can
run that now.
I don't think those phones can run Pokemon Go. But from what I saw, it was like a lot of like my son or my child. I'm not saying that hasn't happened for non-children phones, but that's just what I saw.
I was definitely seeing people on Reddit posting about it, saying it happened to them. So I would assume that it's not just children, I would hope. But I don't know. Just, again, more Niantic being Niantic.
I have one more complaint about Dynamax that I have, and then I'll stop complaining about Dynamax. It's just a small thing. If you go on Pokemon Go and you go into the nearby, the Pokemon, it's like a 9x9 grid of Pokemon next to stops. You go into the raids, it's a 9x9 grid of raids. You then go on to the power spots. It is a list.
Because they're big. They have to take more room.
Why is it not a grid? I have to scroll, and the scrolling is terrible. You start to scroll and you immediately move to the different tab. It doesn't matter. It's a small thing.
Your power spot, MP, whatever, I think that's just still a little clunky to find in general.
Yeah, there's no indication as to how much you've actually got today, for example. Like trying to calculate how close am I to my 800
If you
match.
tap on your MP,
it will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has nobody? I've complained about this multiple times.
Also,
that's ridiculous.
In the Gigantamax raids, if you just tap and hold on the 4 people, it will show you their name and their level, so you can see who you're playing with.
Yeah.
And then when you tap on the amount of people, it will show all of the people on the list. And I believe the system is smart enough. Let's say you had like 9 people. It would be 4, 4, and 1, and that doesn't make sense, right? Because that one person would be solo. I have never seen it where it was 4, 4, and 1. When we had 9 people, it was like 4, 3, 3. It moved people around, so no one was like actually solo. 4, 4, 3, 3 doesn't make sense. It was 3, 3, 3. Yeah. So like I don't think, unless somebody like drops last minute or something, you can be by yourself against whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
like a Phalanx and a Metang can only be up to 4. So that situation could never happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are coming out of this weekend being really frustrated with this feature for very valid reasons. I think
because
that
they didn't take it seriously a month ago, like me.
Yes, because there wasn't a reason to. Because this is the reason to, and I think that this helps us learn that. And sure, there are maybe some minor things that could be adjusted. I still think it could use to be a guaranteed catch. I also think they need slightly better rewards. But I think this is exciting.
Oh, here's the thing I was going to say. If they gave us more time, let's say like this Gigantamax stuff came out next month, because I actually thought it was going to debut in Fukuoka and then like the wild area, whatever, would be like the first time for everyone. I think the same thing would happen.
Yeah.
I think giving players an extra month, they still wouldn't have gone out to grind raids. They still wouldn't have powered up Pokemon because there was no
reason to take it seriously until now.
Yeah. So that's why, circling all the way back, that's why I was like surprised that Niantic did it so quickly within 5 weeks of debuting the system. But I think they probably understood that like this was going to be a wake up call for people, good or bad.
Yeah. I think it's also probably given them lots of data to figure out if they want to change it. Because obviously, like, we have slightly differing opinions on how they should change it, but all agree that there's probably some tweaks they should be doing to make it better. But what I'm most interested to see is how quickly they roll out more. So obviously we got 3 this weekend. We're getting 1 next week. And then we're getting another. Does it count as 2 technically? Because it's like 2 of the same form. Same
Low
Pokemon.
amp and high amp.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
I don't know.
The next month. So it's nearly not quite another month, because it's like it was a month 4 days ago, 23rd of November. Will they then continue that monthly? Like, are we going to get 1 Gigantamax a month? Because I feel like
I would say so.
Because if we got it I think it will be much harder to get people together for Gengar because it's so close together. Whereas if you have it once a month, I could probably justify going into Edinburgh with Craig once a month, right? Like, that feels like a fun monthly thing to do with my son. But every week, absolutely not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And if they do it once a month, assuming that they don't do this again where they have 3 on the same weekend, they can stretch it out over more than 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think we're getting a new system at all, like Z moves or terrestrialization, or I don't think we're getting anything new in the sense of raids, I guess, until the 10-year anniversary. So,
which would be
next
2 years.
year. Yeah. So next year would be the next summer would be the 9-year anniversary, and then after that would be 10 years. So,
and there'll be a new gimmick in the main series games, so they're not catching up too quickly.
I've met the community ambassador in my area. Well, there's a couple in my area. I think one was sick or out of town or something. So there were supposed to be 2. There was only 1. So that was really cool. They were very nice. They were the amount of work it takes to be a community ambassador is just insane,
especially for a weekend like this.
Yes, especially when you have 200 people checking in.
Yeah.
I mean, Hannah and I did this we weren't community ambassadors. Hannah and I did this in New York.
We led a meetup. It was on Campfire.
It was on Campfire. We led over 100 people through Central Park. And that was cool. That was awesome. We did Venusaur first, and then we walked to Charizard because it was the nearest.
Interesting choice.
Wrong call. We should have walked a little bit further to the Blastoise because we've learned very quickly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So wrong
keep
call.
Keep those
there.
types in mind.
Yeah, because we were probably on pace to do about 4 an hour, and there was about 7 in Mall of America. So like, there was one point where when we finished, there was like 10 minutes left, and it was like, there's 2 here, so why would we leave the area? Let's just wait out the 10 minutes because people are catching anyways, and then as soon as the time rolls over, both will just appear right here again, and we don't have to move a giant group. So I'm not trying to pick on anyone. I think the community ambassador was super great. I'm just saying that if you're in a mall where a lot of Pokemon Go plays, I felt a little awkward standing in the middle of a store. And
I can understand that.
And unfortunately, Mall of America in specific is very big, and they know that there's a lot of Pokemon Go players. That's like not a new thing to Mall of America by any means, but there are gyms that are in the corners, and it's because like one's like an LL Bean, so the gym is like a giant boot in front of LL Bean. So anytime I do that raid, I literally walk through LL Bean and I go outside, and then I do the raid outside, and then I come back in because I feel weird standing in somebody's store.
I mean, just one person is a whole different experience than 100 or 200 people walking through the store staring at their phones.
Yeah, I would love to know if Mall of America have someone who works for them whose job it is to prepare for Pokemon Go events, because it's like, that feels like, sure, you probably have a lot of people just on a day-to-day basis, but surely it's a lot more when there's events. And that feels like something
you are underestimating the size of Mall of America.
Maybe I don't know.
When Mall of America, when Pokemon Go Community Day started, and people were going to Mall of America more frequently for that, they had signs up saying like, if you're playing Pokemon Go here and you are blocking people's ways in the walkway or the escalator specifically, this is not exclusive to like American things or just like the Mall of America, where people will get to the top of an escalator or top of a staircase and then just stand there because they don't know where to go. You get that everywhere. Like, I don't know why that's a thing of like, even in like Tokyo, where like you're like climbing up the stairs and people are just standing at the top of the staircase, like looking at their phone, trying to figure out the maps. It's like,
no,
just like take 3 steps over. We're all trying to leave this train station. So there were at one point a big message to Pokemon Go players being like, we will kick you out of this mall if you are disrupting the flow of traffic in this mall.
It's not hard to just move out of people's way.
Yeah.
Like there was one.
Shout out to the one guy in Nordstrom who started playing the Pokemon theme song on a Bluetooth stereo. He was definitely a ploy of a Nordstrom. He knew exactly what was happening when that group of people came in.
We did have one experience where we were down because we mostly kind of went out of the main shopping district in Edinburgh. We were off on the side streets, but that meant we were like around people's houses, their tenements and stuff like that. And so there was a point where there were people coming out of a house to see 100 people just standing outside their block of flats, looking at them going, what on earth is happening? And someone just shouted Pokemon and they went, oh, okay, and walked away.
And this is why I love Pokemon Go. I love those moments so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good weekend.
Well, as long as you were in a group that could actually complete the raids.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I did enjoy myself, but yeah, if I hadn't managed to make it to Edinburgh, I don't think it would have been possible for me. I think there were 2 sets of people in Scotland that managed it, and they were in the 2 big cities. Yeah. No one else.
I think that either way, it is a good new feature, but it was only a good weekend if you were around enough people, or people prepared enough to actually complete these, which, again, not everybody was.
Yeah. And if there's a takeaway here, I think as more of these raids come out and now we know the baseline, and now people have.
Yeah.
These are good counters. Like if you caught a Blastoise, Venusaur, Charizard, they're great. Even if it was like a bad 3-star or whatever, like still worth powering up. Like they're still fantastic. But as people establish more and more counters going forward, they should ideally get easier and easier and easier. Like I think Zoe said that she was able to do one with 14 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's realistic. Like we did with one with 20 people. We almost did one with 17 people in my group. That was one we failed, but we wanted to try. We were like legitimately like, what's also cool, just a heads up, this is super cool. We didn't talk about this at all. If you fail a raid, you get your 800 MP back.
Yes.
You don't lose it at all.
Yeah.
So
that's really good.
Like when we were standing around being like, oh, everyone left, there's only 17 of us. It was like, let's just try this. And we failed, and we're like, well, okay, no big deal. Let's go get lunch.
The problem is I want them to retroactively add that to raids as well. It now feels rubbish if you're ever in that situation with raids. I would attempt more raids on my own if it worked that way, because there are some 3-stars that are super easy, and there are some that are maybe a little bit too much for one person. In some situations, like I would try more of them if it only took it when you
add that to raids. That would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take one more break, and then we'll talk about, we got some Scarlet and Violet news, so we will be right back. And we are back from our break. Celebrate the spooky system.
Not quite.
Celebrate the spooky season with rare candy galore. From Monday, October 28th to Thursday, October 31st, Gengar will appear in 5-star raids. We'll have Ghost Terra type. Defeating Gengar will include a lot of festive rewards, including a ton of rare candy. And 5-star Terra raids. A bit of a bummer it's not a 7-star Gengar, because I think that would have been super cool. But thematically, they just want you to knock out Gengar relatively easy to stock up on rare candy.
Yeah.
Which I guess is fine. It's okay.
I'm happy with it, because I have used up most of my candy now from the trying to get my decks finished in home.
Yep. Gotta do that. Now's a good time to be able to stock up on candy to get that shiny Meloetta.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true, because you could just catch a Bellsprout, evolve it to a Weeping Bell, evolve it to a Victory Bell.
Why always Bellsprout? That's the one you always seem to choose.
Because it's the one I'm missing. Even though I have a million Bellsprouts in other games, it's the one I'm missing in Scarlet and Violet. It's a good one to have. They're also doing another mass outbreak event from Monday, October 28th to Thursday, October 31st. Ghastly, Misdreavus, Shuppet, and Bramblin will appear in the Paldea region. This is a little bit of a bummer. There's nothing for Kitakami or Blueberry. These Pokemon will more likely to have the crafty mark, so fun catching these opportunistic ghost Pokemon. So no increase for shiny. Although if you've been doing 7-star raids recently, you'll probably have a lot of Herba Mystica. Or if you're trying to get your Meloetta, you probably have the shiny charm. Hopefully. They did a Halloween event last year. It was like Greavard?
Probably.
Maybe Drifloon?
I can't remember a year ago.
I can't remember. Yeah. But I think Bramlin's like newer. I don't think they've done an event with Bramblin. Maybe I'm misremembering, but when they do increased mark, it's usually 5%. So you have a 1 in 20 chance of a Pokemon you catch to have the mark. And that mark takes priority first. So if it doesn't roll for that mark, then it will roll for the other marks behind it. So all in all, more chance of just getting a marked shiny if that's what you care about. There are probably people out there that just care about marks. I'm sure they exist where they want a mark or a certain mark. Probably not as common as shiny hunters, but there are the shiny mark hunters. So
yeah, I suspect they're probably the same people. Like, I don't think anybody cares about marks and doesn't care about shinies. They've just they finished on shinies and now they're on to something else.
Yeah. I would like, it would be cool to have like a Cramorant of every single mark. Although that would be hard, because even though the rare mark is the rarest mark, there's like 20 some personality marks.
Mhm.
So trying to get all 20.
You can only get one for catching on. I know there's like some you can get, like there's the treasure hunter and stuff like that, but you can only
Yeah.
get one when you catch it, right? It's not possible to get more than one.
Right. So if you got like the birthday mark, that would cancel out
Yeah.
every other mark except for the big and small, because you have to like talk to somebody to earn that.
You add them on later. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could, like, the most you could get is big and small and an extra, and then you would add on the treasure,
Yeah.
the cooking.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sandwich one or whatever it's called.
Gourmand.
Yeah. There's 2 marks that are not in Scarlet and Violet, which is the dry mark, which is like intense heat, because nowhere in Scarlet and Violet is intense heat. And then there's 3. There's the cooking, the curry mark, and then the fishing mark. I don't know if you guys know this. There's no fishing in Scarlet and Violet. It's very weird.
I had not thought about that till now. I guess I didn't miss it.
No fishing? I don't know. I think fishing's one of those things that I feel like need a rework too. You play a lot of fishing games, Al?
Well, I play a lot of games that have fishing in them. That doesn't mean I like the fishing. I think most fishing mini games are not great.
You don't like the one in Stardew Valley?
The Stardew Valley one is fine. I think it gets a bad rap because it's very difficult to start with, but as you do more of it, it becomes easier. Although they did improve that later on when they added there's like a new rod that only works for low level fish, but it's much easier, so you can build up your level that way. And
compared to most other fishing mini games, the Pokemon one is usually pretty boring. But I can't actually imagine it feeling like Pokemon if it was more complicated. I don't know. A rework would be interesting.
Well, the problem.
Have you ever built a sandwich in one of these games? That's not exactly fun or easy.
Well, this is the problem, right? Like, you can either go really simple, like Pokemon, like Animal Crossing, where you're just pressing the button at the right time, or you go more complicated, and then you have people complaining because it's too difficult. So, I feel like there is no good balance there.
You're always going to have someone complaining that something's too difficult, though.
We had a whole weekend of it, actually, in Pokemon Go.
And right like that, we're back on Gigantamax.
Yeah, there's like a lot of things I feel like could be reinvented in main series Pokemon games. Like I think eggs are not in a great space.
Well, they tried to change things up with these new games.
I think they improved eggs in some ways, but also made it worse in other ways. I think I love being able to do eggs wherever. Like that. I mean, that's what we were asking for years. Don't make me have to go to a building to do this. The problem is that they wanted to tie in sandwiches really hard to it and go, well, we're just going to make it really hard to do without a sandwich, so we're going to make you have a sandwich. And then it's just like, well, I'm doing the sandwich to give me half decent odds. That was the weird thing about that. I think if they just improved the rate at which you got eggs, most of the annoyances go away.
Hear me out. You build a spa, and then before you go to bed, you put like 20 eggs in it. And then when you wake up the next morning, they're ready to go. They did this in a game called Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
But that's still hatching eggs and not getting eggs, though, in the first
place.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but having to go back and forth, I think a big part of the problem in Scarlet and Violet is that you can't go and hatch them while you're getting the eggs. You can't do it all at the same time.
That's fair.
Yeah, this is coming from somebody who's just done crystal breeding, which like is it is an interesting system, and it's funny because I made a YouTube video on how to breed in crystal, how to shiny breed in Crystal. And then I went to do it this past weekend and I forgot, and I had to watch my own YouTube video to remember how to do it.
I mean,
That's
it's been
how
a
good
little
it is,
while.
folks.
That's how good it is. But it was it was really different. Like I mean there are some changes that are still here. Like obviously in Crystal, if you have a Pokemon with a different ID number, trainer ID number, that helps. And obviously that's kind of the same for Masuda, except regional. But I would love to see a whole new breeding system. I would love to see like a whole new fishing system. Them adding marks to Pokemon and sizes to Pokemon give you more of a reason to catch Pokemon you've caught before, which I think is great. People argued that they didn't like. Some people really liked the catching in Arceus. Some people didn't. I think I loved it because at the same time, if you didn't like it, you could just run into said Pokemon and then do the traditional catching. Like it was both there, which is great.
I also one thing I loved about Legends is they not only gave you all tools to make it quicker to catch, which obviously I love, but also when you released Pokemon, you got something from that. So if you spent ages shiny hunting and catching everything possible,
I didn't even think of that, Al.
It was such a, because especially in a game where you need to keep getting the balls and you're not gaining money in any other way, giving you, because they did that in Let's Go as well. Like you got the candy, the like the courage candy or whatever when catching, which gave you the ability to then buy more balls. I think is just a fantastic way to do it.
I didn't even think about throwing away all of these Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet and getting nothing for doing that.
It's so painful. I mean, I just don't catch Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet as much. Like, I only catch the Pokemon I actually care about because the process is so tedious compared to Legends Arceus.
Yeah. It would be interesting if, like, you threw away a marked Pokemon, if it would give you, like, a little bit more candy because it had a mark on it or something. Or not
we
candy,
really have
but,
had
like...
Pokemon Go around for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah, like, as much as Pokemon Go is not everyone's cup of tea, I think some of the things they've done make you rethink of like what the main series is doing. And I there are things that make no sense. Like I'm going to use a fast TM to hopefully get a move that I need. And I didn't. So I got to use a fast TM like 4 more times just to get like Sucker Punch on my Gengar or whatever. Like that's super annoying still. But
yeah, thankfully I have enough elite TMs because I never used them before that I was using them for my Dynamax Pokemon.
I didn't even think about that too because I have all the Gigantamax now. So I could, and I have like 12 elite TMs because I've never used them. I could give them each Hydro Cannon Frenzy Plant.
There you go.
But they're not shiny.
Well, that's the other thing. Oh, goodness me, we're back on Go. I only saw one person out of our 120 or so throughout 4 raids. Only one of them I saw get a shiny.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw so many people get shinies.
Yeah, I
was
thought the shiny rates were high.
jealous. I think they were 1 in 20.
It could be that people just weren't saying it,
Very
but that seems
vocal.
odd.
Oh, you're playing with some Japanese players?
Oh, shiny, it doesn't matter. No, I feel like people would be more enthusiastic. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe, I don't know. I would have been.
Maybe they weren't excited because
they've
they've already had like a shiny Charizard or a Blastoise or a Venusaur.
Maybe, but the shiny Gigantamax looked pretty darn cool.
Well,
exactly.
So
you're seeing
cool.
it in Gigantamax form when you're catching it.
Yeah.
Which is also, by the way, better than what raids do. Because if you have a raid that's in a mega raid, it then turns not into the mega when you're catching it, and it's just not as impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I think they look so cool, and that was part of the reason why I wanted to grind them out. I was like, I just want like a 90, anything over 90 really, so I can invest in it and be good. Because you can still roll low IVs. There was a couple that weren't super fantastic, but it was like I'm getting more candy. I'm getting more experience. I'm having a good time. I'm hopefully maybe going to get a shiny. I got 3 that are fantastic IVs. I think like 96, 96, 98. So, but no shiny. I think Kyle from GoCast, I think they got 2 shinies in 15 raids, and both were like very bad IVs. And it was like, but if we were lucky and I got a shiny, we could have traded, and then they would re-rolled IVs, and we would both have lucky, shiny Gigantamax Pokemon. That sounds fantastic.
When are they bringing bottle caps to Go? That's the real question.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about that. The Max Soup, like Max Soup, has to be coming.
Yeah,
For
in 2
money.
years.
No, maybe not 2 years.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, 2 years. Come on.
For money and in 2 years. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe not in exactly 2 years, but it's not happening next year. It'll happen.
I would say summer. I would say summer. They do Max Soup.
No, I think it's 2026.
You don't think so? You don't think summer?
No.
How much do you charge for a Max Soup? Poffin is 200. Team Rocket Radar is 200.
How much should they charge? $1. How much will they charge? $2.
5.
You think
5.
500
They
coins?
started this system not letting us turn any of our existing Pokemon into even Dynamax Pokemon. They are not going to make it easy.
Will they have 2 different soups? Will they have Dynamax Soup and Gigantamax Soup?
I don't think they're going to make it possible for us to turn on Dynamax Pokemon into Dynamax Pokemon.
I really hope they do one day. Like,
I
I understand.
really hope they do, but at this point,
I understand.
Well, here's a question. Sorry, we're going back to Pokemon Go. A Master Ball is ultimately like $8.
Yeah.
And I've seen people with like 4 Master Balls in their inventory, and they're like, I'm never gonna use these. I'm stocking up. I don't remember when the 3rd Master Ball came through or whatever. I have 2 Master Balls. I've never used a Master Ball.
I had 3, and I've used all 3. I used them all on the Galar birds.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, because I know
did...
I'm not going to use it on anything else. I am going to use it on the thing that I very rarely see.
Mm-hmm.
I only have 2. I never got a 3rd or a 4th. I didn't do the 4th one because I didn't want to spend $8 because my thought process was, what am I going to use this on? I could use it on the Galar birds, but if I run into a shiny one, it's ultimately guaranteed.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it for a shiny one. But this was before the shinies were released. I have all 3 now.
I mean, I would if I ran into like a. Wait, can the Gigantamax Pokemon be tiny or big? Can you get
That's
like
a good question?
Well, presumably they have
Charizard?
sizes, right?
Yeah,
I would
XXL
assume
and
they would have
XXS.
sizes. But if I ran into like 100% humongo, Landorus.
I have an extra small Gigantamax Charizard. So
Okay.
presumably they can also be extra small and extra large, but I haven't seen whether they would have the
animation,
whether it would be clear on the catch screen or not.
Yeah.
Someone has to have encountered that, right? They surely will have put it on Sylph Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of mine are like normal sizes. Which is the most common size is normal. Yeah, so a Master Ball is ultimately $8.
Plus a lot of effort.
Yeah. But like the whole point of like spending money in Pokemon Go is just to like time skip. No,
yes,
Puffin's
Gigantamax Pokemon can be extra small. There are definitely people who got that in the last day.
Did they say whether the animation was there or not?
I'm not seeing any pictures of the animation happening.
I would guess Max Soup would probably be. This is what I would guess. I'm looking at the inventories. I would guess Max Soup would be 600 coins because you can't buy 600 coins. You can only buy 550 coins.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So I would guess 600 coins for a Max Soup.
It's the 10-pack in Pocket all over again.
Or they do it where Max Soup is only available in some like $10 bundle, like the Elite TMs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this is the funny thing. I ended up buying. There was a bundle for. Was it one of the seasonal tickets? I think that also included one set of Max particles. So I did end up purchasing Max Particles because I was buying the ticket anyway, and it made it the same price essentially.
Uh-huh.
So
You have bought some.
technically, I purchased a bundle that had some in it. Yes.
Yes.
Although annoyingly, that one did not come as the like 800 item. It just immediately went into your inventory, which was a bit annoying because then you have to use it all up before you can get any more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Max Particles are how that inventory is, just how you view that inventory is just like really weird still.
Yeah.
Of like collecting, having a limit, going over your limit, having some purchased.
Yeah.
That definitely needs to be redesigned.
Max Particles are weird.
I think they should have one of those limits. Either you have a max on how much you can keep at once, or you have a max of how much you can do a day. And I think that would make it much clearer to people and also feel better.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Or well, because you actually have 3 limits on what you can do. Because there's how many you can get in a day, there's how many you can have in
800,
total,
which is 1,000.
And then there's how much you can get from one stop, which is just once, like 120 if you've not been there before, and 100 if you have been there before. So there's actually 3 technically limits. If we want to get, because like a Pokestop, you can spin it as many times as you want, right?
Yeah.
In a day. You
Yeah,
just have
there are
a time
limit
between.
It's hard to keep track of the limits on this.
I get why there is a limit, because they want the 800 to be equivalent to 1 free raid pass. I understand that. So that like 1 free 6-star raid pass. But yeah, it's weird hitting 800 and them being like, you can't earn any more. And it's like, but I can earn 200 more technically.
Yeah. That's the problem. They tried to make it a more flexible and useful system while keeping the same restriction on it that you have when it's just one item. Because the daily raid pass doesn't feel weird because it's just you have one.
And you can only hold one.
You can only hold one. So once you use it, you can get another one the next day. Right? It's really simple to understand, but because it's now hundreds of them, it gets much more confusing.
Plus, with the daily raid pass, any not free, so any of the paid raid passes that aren't remote, you can hold as many of those as you want.
Which you can do with the Max Particles as well, except that one weird one where they gave you the particles rather than the item that is the particles, because you just have the packs in your inventory and you use them when you want to. So that is good.
Can you tell I haven't bought any Max Particles before?
It was weird. It was weird for me using them for the first time, because that was the first time I bought them, which they just used automatically because I only had 300 Max Particles left, but I couldn't earn any more. So when I was going into the raid, it was like the animation was like the raid pass animation, and it was just like, oh, you're spending 800.
Yeah.
So I never really saw them in my inventory because I was already depleted, and then I did 3 raids in a row, and then it was like, do you want to buy more? And I was like, sure do.
I guess this is why I'm not a huge fan of like the gacha games that have the free and the paid diamonds, and it just ends up being a bit awkward and confusing. But I can't decide which one's better. I feel like this one's better, where you have like packs of them, and so you can use them when they want. I think however you do this is going to be weird.
It makes slightly more sense, but yeah.
Well, speaking of packs, TCG Pocket is coming out this week, so that'll be a conversation for next week. Yes. Everyone will get to play it. So I guess be excited for next week if you're going to dabble in TCG Pocket. I have already committed to buying the monthly pass. Hannah, are you going free to play?
I'm definitely starting free to play.
Okay. So Bobby doesn't even have to be here to know that Bobby is spending easily $100 on day one. Al, how are you feeling about Pocket?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game overall looks pretty great. It's much more leaning towards the collection heavy stuff that I like, you know. probably going to ignore the battles most of the time. You know, my daily card game battling is still going to be with Snap, I think. Whether I'm undecided on the premium, because I do like the idea of extra packs, but I also feel like that could go up and down as time goes on, right? Like once you get close to finishing a set, maybe I stop purchasing the premium at that point. Part of the problem is we don't know how often they're going to add new stuff to this, right?
Yeah. Well, that was one of the questions
that
was asked in the interview with them. Is we asked them how often they planned it, and they were like, we don't know yet. Which is like a fair answer. Like we don't know how fast people will want to consume.
Which is probably part of the reason they've done this beta, the early access, however you want to call it, because they can see
the New Zealand
some
stuff.
people. Although, as we all know, this is probably going to be quite heavily weighted towards enthusiastic people, shall we say, with VPNs, who are more likely than the general populace to purchase.
If only ExpressVPN knew that they could have. That would have been the time to advertise on this show. I think their contract with us ended a little bit ago. That was their fault, not ours. They could have taken advantage of the TCG boom.
Well, I do know that there were multiple free VPNs that just died. Their New Zealand servers just died. They just weren't working because too many people were trying to connect to them.
Amazing.
Because who's connecting to New Zealand in a VPN normally? Not very many people.
Yeah.
Only for Pokemon. That's definitely not true, but it sure seems like it sometimes.
Yeah. So, anyways, we will be back next week. I'm sure it will be a TCG Pocket heavy episode. We are recording this on Sunday, so there might be. I don't know if they would announce a 7-star raid tonight, knowing that there's an event this week. So I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think there'll be a 7-star raid, but
of course they're going to do it now that we've said that we don't think
that's true. That's true. They got 2 left. They got Feraligatr and Torterra, I think, are left, and then they're done with starters at least.
1 November, 1 December.
Mm-hmm.
And we for sure know, like, there's no way that Eevee is 7-star Eevee is for sure coming back for November.
Yeah, that's a good point, and they'll do something Christmassy for December, won't they?
Yeah, I don't think they'll repeat Iron Bundle. I guess they could, but
they definitely could.
It'd be nice to be like Weirdeer would be really cool. Stantler would be cool. 7-star Stantler holding Eviolite. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for making it to the end. We will be back next week. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Al. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super. At least evolve your Pokemon before you go into Gigantamax raids, even if you don't power them up.
Effective.